Welcome to the last day of Unit 2. This is U.S. History B Virtual Interactive Notebook 2, Day 7, The Atomic Bomb. Title of your notes, Day 7, The Atomic Bomb. The essential question today is, why did Truman drop the bomb? The main idea is the atomic bomb. The two subtopics are Manhattan Project and bombing. Right. Albert Einstein, was one of the many Jews who left Germany before the final solution. I believe it was 1938 when Hitler closed down emigration from Germany and he trapped the Jewish people who were still there in Germany. But up until then, people got out. And Albert Einstein was one of them. And it's sort of ironic because Nazi scientists were working on the idea of an atomic bomb, and Einstein, I guess, knew it, and they lost one of the people who could have actually made it happen for them. So their racism denied them the atomic bomb first. If they had gotten the atomic bomb, they were going to bomb Washington, D.C. and New York. They had a bomber called the America bomber that could, I don't know, I think they actually built the prototype that could reach the eastern seaboard of the United States and fly back to Germany. And if they developed a bomb, they would have nuked us. We got there first, as I say. So, the Manhattan Project. I want you to write down 3 things for the Manhattan Project. Thing number 1, Germany was trying to build nuclear weapons. Germany was trying to build nuclear weapons. In 1939, Nazi scientists had discovered they could split atoms and make a big explosion. That's what an atomic explosion is you split an atom apart and it causes a chain reaction. Another atom split apart and solid matter ceases to be. And atoms are held together with an enormous amount of energy. And when you release that energy, you get a giant explosion. And it's the same kind of reaction that powers stars. So there you go. The second thing I want you to have coming off of Manhattan Project is Einstein asks FDR to start an atomic weapons program. Einstein asked FDR to start an atomic weapons program. And they did start one, and they codenamed it the Manhattan Project, and it was very secret. So the third thing I want you coming off the Manhattan Project is secret program. All right. So there were all these people working for the Manhattan Project, and finally they developed an atomic weapon, and they exploded one. I think it was Trinity. They blew up an experimental bomb called Trinity. They didn't know exactly what this was going to do to people. They knew that radioactivity was maybe bad, but they didn't understand how bad. So Franklin Roosevelt died, and his vice president, Harry Truman, became president. Harry Truman had been an officer in World War I, and he was a politician from Missouri, and he was one of the few presidents we've ever had who didn't enter office rich. And when he exited, he wasn't rich, and that's an indication that maybe he wasn't corrupt. But anyway, Harry Truman took over, and he was informed about the Manhattan Project, and then he was informed when Trinity worked, and they asked him, do you want us to drop this thing on Japan? And I've read his biography. He took a lunch break, and he took about a half hour, and then he said, yeah, drop it on Japan. So we first dropped a bomb on the city of Hiroshima, and then Nagasaki. We were actually saving Hiroshima for an atomic bomb drop. It's horrible to say, but it was kind of a science experiment. It was sort of a way to warn the Russians that we had this technology. It was a way to end the war in Japan. There were people in Hiroshima who thought that FDR had a secret Japanese grandmother or something living in the city because it was untouched. We sent one airplane over Hiroshima. It was called the Enola Gay, and it dropped a single bomb. And people just watched this bomb come down because they didn't know it was a city killer. They were just, why are they only dropping one giant bomb? And then the thing went off. The government of Japan the emperor rather, thought that maybe we only had one of these things, and so they didn't surrender. So a few days later, we dropped another bomb on Nagasaki, and that's when the Japanese government surrendered, because we had these things that they couldn't stand against. Surrendering was disgusting in the code of Bushido, but the emperor decided that it was better to surrender than to lose Japan entirely. So Japan surrendered unconditionally. It's hard to know how many people died in this thing. I've seen anywhere from 100,000 total to 250,000 total. But that's just the people who died in the initial bomb drop. People spent decades dying from radiation poisoning after that. The United States Air Force sent scientists in to film radiation sickness because it hadn't been seen before. And that's how we discovered that nuclear fallout is so devastating. Fallout is when the bomb explodes, it irradiates particles, dirt, and things that used to be houses and stuff, and it spreads them into the wind. And the wind carries it all over the place, and it falls out of the explosion onto the ground. And for at least 2 weeks, it's highly radioactive, and the human body can only take so much radiation poisoning in a lifetime. In fact, astronauts have to sign a waiver because when they leave the atmosphere, they're not protected from solar radiation anymore, and they have a much higher chance of getting cancer, and that stays with them for the rest of their lives. So people were dying from this bomb. People were dying of these bombs into the 1990s. So I don't think those figures have been calculated, but initially, 250,000 people dead. Just to compare that, in our nightmare scenario here in the United States, they were saying that maybe as many as 250,000 people were going to die of coronavirus, and it's a national tragedy. So that's a big, big number. All right, for your output, I've included. First, I want you to watch a quick video about the bombing of Nagasaki and then the surrender of Japan, because some things happened in the Japanese government that I just want you to be aware of. And then after that, I've included a selection of text, and I want you to respond to that as your output. I want you to respond to this question in at least 3 sentences. Was the United States, was Truman right to drop the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? All right? And that is that. Next up will be your test. Thank you.